There are places you only mean to visit once, but they haunt you forever. Airbnbs, wooden cabins, cozy little houses in unfamiliar places. They seem like just another stop on the road. But for some, they became waking nightmares. Tonight you'll hear 3 true stories, unsettling experiences, with no clear explanation. And maybe after listening, you'll never look at Airbnb the same way again. Make sure your doors are locked, turn off the lights, and listen closely. Story 1. Midal's Room. In November of 2021, I flew from Philly to Las Vegas to compete in a jiu-jitsu tournament. I often travel for competitions, usually crashing with friends or teammates to save money. But this time, for some personal reasons, I had to stay alone. I booked an Airbnb near the Strip. Cheap price, central location seemed like a smart choice. It wasn't until after I booked it that I realized the neighborhood wasn't exactly welcoming. Run-down houses, flickering streetlights, a few shadowy figures wandering the sidewalks as if looking for something under the curb. I thought about canceling and finding another place, but then convinced myself I'm just sleeping here. What could possibly go wrong? The host didn't have a profile picture, just a purple flower. They messaged me the code to get in a small studio unit behind the main house. There was only one entrance. I punched in the code 12345667. Yeah, not kidding, just a straight sequence. It felt off, but I told myself, maybe the host is old, not great with tech. The Wi-Fi password was literally password. Inside the room was plain. Nothing unusual, but something felt off, like I wasn't completely alone. Around 9:30 p.m., just as I was dozing off, knock, knock, knock. A soft tapping at the window right by the bed. I sat up straight. The curtains were drawn shut. I called out, "Who's there?" No answer. A minute later, another knock. Slower, more deliberate. I messaged the host right away, asking if they had come by. It took nearly an hour to get a reply. I was going to bring you some water, but saw you were asleep. Didn't want to bother you. That made my skin crawl. If it really was them, why not text first? And how did they know I was asleep? When the curtains were completely shut, I didn't leave the room, didn't shower. I just lay there, waiting for morning. Around midnight, when everything had gone eerily quiet, I heard it. Beep, beep. The electronic keypad on the door. Someone was entering a code. Wrong code. Then again, click. It unlocked. I jumped up, rushed to the door. It was slowly creaking open. I slammed it shut with all my strength, hitting someone on the other side. I screamed, "This is my room! Get the hell out!" A deep male voice answered through the door. "I'm Midal. This is my room." Midal, the name of the host. I yelled again. "I've called the cops. Leave now." I said it loud enough so they'd think I really was on the phone with 911. When the police arrived, I told them everything. What disturbed me most was their reaction. They weren't even surprised. They said they'd stay nearby until I got an Uber. Eventually, the host Midal showed up. No apology. When asked about the person who tried to enter the unit, he kept changing his story. A friend. A mix-up. Then finally said, maybe it was a homeless guy. I left that place in the middle of the night. Once I got home, I checked Midal's Airbnb profile again. It was no longer active. The last review was from 3 months ago. And that purple flower profile pic, it had appeared on a scam warning site for fake rental listings. I still don't know what really happened. Maybe it was just a robbery attempt. But maybe it was something much worse. All I know is, if I had fallen asleep early that night, I might never have woken up. Story 2. The Cabin with No One Location. Vermont. Themes: isolation, stalking, haunting. In the summer of 2016, my boyfriend Sean and I decided to take a short break in a remote wooden cabin in Vermont. The Airbnb listing described it as off-grid, no electricity, no Wi-Fi, and no neighbors within half a mile. We were into camping, so that didn't bother us. In fact, it gave us a sense of freedom we never found in the city. The host was a middle-aged woman whose house was half a mile away across the woods, but she was out of town that week. So the cabin was entirely ours. It was a simple structure, one main room, a loft for sleeping, a potbelly stove, 3 large windows, and silence, just the forest all around. On our first night after cooking dinner by oil lamp and playing board games by candlelight, I was exhausted and climbed up to the loft to sleep. Sean stayed out on the front porch, smoking and listening to the crickets. About 30 minutes later, as I was drifting off, bang, a loud, sudden thud slammed against the cabin wall. It sounded like someone had struck it with a large wooden stick, sharp and deliberate. I shot up. Before I could say anything, Sean yelled from downstairs, "Did you hit something?" I trembled. "No." "Was that you?" he replied. "Didn't see anyone." But that wasn't the wind. We'd camped enough to know the sounds of wind, falling branches, even bears. This was different. I was about to lie back down when scrurch. A slow, dragging scrape along the back wall, like someone was pulling something sharp across the wooden planks. I rushed downstairs. Sean's face had gone pale, though he was trying to stay calm. "Go back up. Take the knives. If they come in, I'll stop them." I nodded, grabbing a couple of kitchen knives with shaky hands. We sat on the bed, hearts pounding. I peered through the gap in the loft floor. Below was dim darkness. The 3 big windows made the cabin feel like a glass tank in the woods. Then crunch, crunch, footsteps. Steady, slow, circling the cabin. Deliberate. Thud. Another hit, this time on the right wall. Then again behind us. Then silence. Then scrape. Something clawing at the metal chimney pipe of the stove. We didn't dare breathe. No voices, no animals. Just intentional, rhythmic, terrifying sounds. Sean pulled the loft ladder up. If they come in, at least I can jump down on them. We stayed like that, frozen, until the sky turned gray. The sound stopped around 5 a.m. When we went downstairs, the cabin was untouched, but on the wooden walls were long, thin scrapes like made by metal, and under one window, a barefoot print, deep, clear, fresh. I messaged the host. She replied, "Maybe it was a porcupine. A porcupine, one that knew how to scratch walls, walk in circles, and climb chimneys." I've never gone back to Vermont since. Story 3. The Man in the Dark Location. Arizona. Themes: stalking, intrusion, terror. Last year, I went to Arizona for a job interview. I couldn't afford a hotel, so I booked a cheap Airbnb at the end of a dirt road about 30 minutes from town. It was a small house with a backyard facing the desert. No neighbors, no streetlights. Just harsh daylight by day and thick, heavy darkness by night. On my first evening, while reviewing notes on my laptop, I heard a soft tapping on the left window. Not like fingers, more like nails tapping glass. I looked over. Only darkness. No one there. Probably just a bug, I told myself. The next day, I completed my interview. Everything went well. I spent the afternoon relaxing, wandering around, reading in the fading sun. Looking back now, I think I was already being watched. That night, while watching a movie in the living room, knock. The tapping returned. I stood up, opened the door, looked around. Nothing. I stepped into the backyard. As soon as I reached the porch, click. A tongue-clicking sound echoed in the dark. I froze. The sound, like someone clicking their tongue to the roof of their mouth came from the distance. But it was clear. I shouted, "Who's there? This is private property, I'm calling the police." Click a reply, from a different direction. I stared into the dark. A tall, thin figure stood still, like a statue, its head tilted to one side as if smiling. I took a step toward it, but my heart was pounding so hard I immediately stepped back. The figure turned and walked away, fast and silent. I locked the door, checked every window, left the lights on all night. But the next night I turned them off. Around 1 a.m. I finally fell asleep. Just a few minutes later, click. From inside the closet. I turned my head. The closet door was slightly open. Without thinking, I grabbed my keys and ran to the car. Called the police. When they arrived and searched the house, no sign of forced entry. But inside the closet door, there was a streak in the dust. A narrow line, as if someone had been hiding there, and silently slipped away. I left that house in the middle of the night. Airbnb refunded me partially. The host never responded. I still don't know who he was, or how long he'd been there. 3 stories, 3 homes, no screams, no blood. And yet you may not sleep tonight. If you've ever experienced something similar, a restless night, a shadow that stared back, leave a comment, tell us your story, and if you're booking an Airbnb for your next trip, remember, sometimes the one who opens the door isn't who you think it is. Thanks for listening. I'm 365 Scary Stories. See you again in the next night of darkness.